Here's more wrestling news for May 11th, 2021. And your headlines for this afternoon include possible spoiler on Mia Yim's first WWE Smackdown feud. Cara opens up about Backstage Scuffle with Chris Jericho in WWE. WWE pulls Triple H and Booker T feud from A&E documentary. Paige issued major warning. Randy Orton once fined $800 for breaking down a door at a venue. Boom Studios announces a New Day comic. CM Punk recalls a scary moment in WWE match, and more. We're starting this video with Mia Yim, whose SmackDown debut was reportedly nixed at the last minute last Friday, but fans won't have to wait long to see the former Retribution member. On F4W Online, Dave Meltzer reported that the plan is for Yim to debut this Friday on the Blue brand, but it's unknown if it'll be Mia Yim or Reckoning who shows up. Though her mask is gone, WWE still has a trademark on the Reckoning name, and Mason T-Bar have both kept their names despite Retribution splitting up. What we may know is what WWE has planned for Yim, as Fightful are reporting that before her debut last week was cut, the plan was for Yim to start a feud with Carmella. We'll have to see if WWE continues with this plan this week and whether the HBIC actually gets to appear in the Thunderdome at all. In 2019, Cara was released from WWE, and whilst his on-screen character may not have done much, the masked superstar was known for being a fighter backstage. Speaking to Fightful recently, Cara discussed a fight backstage with Chris Jericho, which he downplayed as a scuffle, saying, "Yeah, we were good. It was just a little misunderstanding here and there, a little scuffle, whatever. Then we spoke on this day, everything was fine. I have no grudge on it, nothing happened obviously. On social media, things always get out of hand and say, that's not true, and things like that, but like I was saying before, you can get in a fight one day and the next day you'll be fine. We talked and everything was okay, everything was cool. Sometimes in the middle of a tour, it's tough because we're away from home and a lot of emotions are going on and things happen." Jericho is no stranger to fights backstage himself, as he stood up to Goldberg and Brock Lesnar in the past behind the curtain. As for Cara, WWE sent him to anger management despite his claims that he doesn't have any anger issues, saying that this aggression is how you get respect growing up in El Segundo Barrio, El Paso. It appears that any beef with Jericho is water under the bridge at this point in time, as the million-viewer man hasn't publicly commented on his scuffle with the masked superstar. WWE and A&E's biography series is spotlighting some of wrestling's biggest names, and whilst Booker T recently had a special episode dedicated to him, one important feud was left out. Fans who tuned in were quick to notice that the Booker T vs Triple H feud was nowhere to be seen, despite this angle being for the World Heavyweight Championship, culminating in a main event match at WrestleMania 19. It's not hard to see why the feud was cut, as it relied heavily on Booker's criminal past and had several racially motivated lines from the game. This was made all the worse by the fact that Triple H beat Booker at WrestleMania, which included hitting him with a pedigree and waiting nearly a minute to cover the two-time Hall of Famer. David Dennis Jr., who was in the Booker T biography, took to Twitter to discuss how the feud with the game wasn't used, saying, "I honestly don't know why it didn't make the final cut. I just know I didn't feel good about it having much of a chance, LOL." In a deleted tweet, Dennis said that there's some pretty spicy footage that went unused, as someone in WWE or A&E clearly felt that this controversial feud is better left on the cutting room floor. Now, we recently reported about a con artist pretending to be the personal assistant to Women's Tag Team Champion Shayna Baszler, and now another WWE personality has been targeted. On Twitter, Paige shared a warning to her fans about someone called Elizabeth Gilbert, who claims to be her PA, and made it clear that she's a scammer and that no fans should send her money regardless of what Gilbert is promising. Hopefully, Paige's message gets out to her fans before anyone falls for this scam, as these con artists can do a lot of damage, especially if they can pry personal information out of their victims. As a 14-time world champion and 2-time Royal Rumble winner, Randy Orton has had one epic career, but things don't always go the Viper's way. This week, Kurt Angle discussed one time when things went wrong for both Orton and himself, as on his podcast, he discussed a time when they were headed for a show in Florida, but Angle's bad directions accidentally took them to Georgia. Speaking to Orton on his podcast, Angle explained, "We ended up being an hour and a half late, and when we got to the arena, you were so nervous about being late. The door was locked, so you kicked it down and you shattered the window, and you ended up having to pay $800 for it." Whilst he may now be a locker room leader who's earned the respect of his peers, Orton was once a brash and young up-and-comer, and this brash attitude ultimately cost him $800. New Day news next, as the trio of Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods, and Big E have been immortalized in comic book form. Boom Studios, who've produced WWE comics in the past, have announced a New Day origin story comic, which was described by series co-writer Evan Narcisse as a love letter to an unseen side of WWE, and fans will be able to pick this comic up in July this year. AEW news next, and as a wrestler, musician, actor, and writer, Chris Jericho is a talented individual, and he's not a bad cameraman either. Recently, a fan tweeted an old photo of The Rock from a WWE house show where the Brahma Bull isn't exactly his suave self, and the fan claimed that it was Jericho who took this photo. When Jericho saw the photo, the former AEW World Champion borrowed a line from Kurt Angle saying, "It's true, it's damn true," confirming that he was the one who snapped this incredible pic. This house show wouldn't be the last time Jericho grabbed the camera, as he took over a video camera during Wrestle Kingdom, and it turns out this is something he's been doing for a very long time. Speaking of AEW, this week saw bad news for Tony Khan, as his soccer team Fulham FC were relegated from the English Premier League after losing to Burnley FC. Though Fulham have 3 matches left to play, they can't avoid relegation even if they were to win all 3, and they'll be starting next season in a lower level of competition. And we're ending today with CM Punk, who in 2009 faced then world champion Jeff Hardy in a TLC match, a match the Straight Edge Savior would go on to win. Speaking this week on the Movie Crypt podcast, Punk discussed the SummerSlam 2009 match and admitted that he was more than a bit scared during one particularly dangerous spot. He explained, "I remember wrestling Jeff Hardy in the Staples Center, and he was jumping off a very tall ladder onto me. I just had to lay on the table for an extended period of time, which really makes you think about it. It's one of those things where I'm just looking and thinking, he's really high up there. You just stew in that moment, and I was thinking, I should just get up and walk away. Why am I laying here? This is stupid." He finally jumped on me and I was like, "Yeah, that hurt." You want to protect Jeff more than you want to protect yourself because he's the one that's jumping, but you realize that's a 200-pound man hurtling at you from a great height, and it's not going to end well for either of you. Though Punk would go on to win the match, he didn't have long to celebrate, as he would end up taking a post-match chokeslam by the returning Undertaker in what was one of the Chicago-made Star's most painful nights in WWE. Well guys, that's our news for today. Please share your comments below. Also hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to receive all notifications. And as always, thanks for watching.